Hello, I'm Salim Abraham, you're watching InfoFeed. Bad Bunny's record-breaking popularity proves that Latinos are paving way in the Americans. The story of the Latino rise in the Americans is not a straight line. It's rhythmic, often violent, and deeply defiant pulse that has been beating under the floorboards of history for 100 years. To see Bad Bunny standing on a stage in 2026, you have to first see the ghosts of those who stood there before him and the doors they were slammed in their faces. The story begins in the humid, overcrowded tenements of Spanish Harlem in the South Bronx. It's 1971. The Young Lords, a group of Puerto Rican activists, are taking over churches and hospitals to demand basic rights. In the middle of this political fire, a new sound is born: Salsa. It wasn't just music, it was a news report. When Hector Lavio stepped up a microphone, he wasn't singing about romance for the sake of radio play. He was singing Juanito Alimana, a story about a street thug, or El Cante, a tragic autobiography of a man who provides joy to others while his own life crumbles. The industry tried to contain them. They were told their music was too loud, too ethnic, or too political. Fania Records became the Motown of the Latino world, providing that we could build our empires, but the mainstream, the white English-speaking gatekeepers of the Grammy and the Billboard charts, treated them like a colorful curiosity. They were invited to the party to provide the exotic entertainment, but they weren't allowed to own the house. As salsa began to polish itself for the ballrooms, a grittier, dark sound was brewing in the housing projects, residentials of Puerto Rico. This was the birth of underground, the father of reggaeton. Inspired by Panamanian reggae of Hispaniola and New York hip-hop, kids like Daddy Yankee and DJ Negro were recording tracks on makeshift equipment. The lyrics were raw about sex, drugs, and the police. In 1995, the Puerto Rican government launched Operation Centurion. Police raided record stores, confiscating cassettes and claiming the music was morally corrupting the youth. They tried to kill the genre in its cradle. They didn't realize that by banning it, they made it a symbol of resistance. The music didn't disappear. It went into the trunks of cars, into the marquesinas or garages, and eventually across the Caribbean Sea. By the turn of the millennium, the US music industry finally realized that the Latino population was a sleeping economic giant, but they wanted the money without the foreigners. This birthed the crossover era. We watched Shakira dye her hair blonde and work tirelessly to perfect her English vowels. We watched Ricky Martin become a global sensation, but only by trading his Afro-Caribbean roots for a polished, radio-friendly pop rock sound. The contract was implicit. If you want to be a king or queen in America, you must leave your language at the border. For 15 years, Latino artists lived in a state of dual identity. They were one person in Spanish and another in English. They were guests in someone else's culture. Then came Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. Bad Bunny didn't just break the contract, he set it on fire. He refused to dye his hair, refused to change his accent, and most importantly, refused to record an English album. When he released Un Verano Sin Ti in 2022, it became the first Spanish album to top the Billboard year-end charts. The world was finally listening to the residentials of Puerto Rico without a translator. By the time we reached February 2026, the atmosphere had shifted. The 2026 Grammy Awards weren't just an award show, they were a coronation. When Bad Bunny stood to accept Album of the Year, he didn't look like a crossover star. He looked like a kid from the island who had brought the island with him. The climax of this story happened during the 2026 Super Bowl halftime show. For 12 minutes, the most watched television event in the United States became a celebration of pan-Latino history. Bonito didn't just play his hits, he created a timeline. He brought out Tego Calandiro, the pioneer of reggaeton, who had been sidelined by the industry for years, giving him the flower he was denied in 2004. The stage design wasn't Vegas glam. It was a map of the Western Hemisphere. As the beat of El Apagona shook the stadium, a song about the power outage and gentrification in Puerto Rico, the screens displayed the names of every country from Mexico to Argentina. He closed the set by saying, "Bienvenidos a las Americas, welcome to the Americans." In that moment, he effectively ended the 200-year-old idea that America is just a country with 50 states. He reminded the world that America is a continent, and for the first time in history, the people who speak the language of its southern half are the one driving the culture of the northern half. The story doesn't end with a trophy, it ends with a fundamental change in the air. In 2026, a kid in Ohio is singing lyrics in Spanish that they don't fully understand, but they feel the soul behind them. The Latin explosion is no longer an explosion, it's the atmosphere. Latinos didn't just pave the way, they built a new road entirely, one that doesn't lead to Hollywood or New York, but connects San Juan, Medellin, Mexico City, and Los Angeles into a single, unstoppable cultural heartbeat. Facts inform, but stories transform.